Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ, and if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, first and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out my podcast. This is a basketball podcast. So on my podcast, I mainly talk about the NBA, but I also like to cover high school, college, international basketball. Today's date is Wednesday, November 26, 2025. It's about 6 a.m. So I want to give you guys the 4 segments that I go over week in and week out. The first segment being a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. It's essentially my power rankings, and I'll give you guys kind of the parameters about that here shortly because that'll be the very first segment I talk about. The next segment that I like to go over is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, in What's New, I'm talking about some type of NBA news, some type of NBA statistical history that was made, or it could just be me ranting about something. The following segment after that I like to talk about is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm talking about some type of college or NBA game of some type of significance or a game that I just really enjoyed watching. The last segment that I go over is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, In the Lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies, high school, college, or international basketball. Today, we're going to actually check in on our NBA rookies. The last couple weeks, I've talked about college basketball, so kind of want to check in on some of the NBA rookies this week, and then next week we'll check on the second half of the NBA rookies, okay? So let's dive straight into it. I don't want to waste any more of you guys' time. I hope you guys have a really good and happy Thanksgiving. The first segment that I want to go over with you guys is a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now, PJ's Echelon essentially is just my power rankings. Understand that this is a progressive list because I'm a progressive man. I'm not a perfect man. So I want to give you guys the parameters that I use week in, week out to rank these teams, and then I'll give you guys about 2 to 3 teams on the bubble at the end of the list. Okay, so the parameters that I like to use is the team's strength of schedule, the eye test, statistically where the team sits, but then also the team's record. Understand that this again is being recorded Wednesday, November 26, 2025. So anything that happens later on today, because I'm recording this super early in the morning, anything that happens later today won't be featured in this pod. So just keep that in mind as we go through this rankings, okay? Let's get straight into it. So our number 1 team this week, none other than the 17-1 Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma right now, they're 4th in offensive rating. They're first in defensive rating, and they're first in net rating. They're on a 9-game winning streak right now, and the month of December, honestly, their month of December schedule to me looks, pretty. I'm not going to say easy. I'm not going to say that, but it looks pretty solid. It looks pretty smooth in my opinion. They only have 2 back-to-backs all month in the month of December, and Jalen Williams should be back, so he'll be coming back, I think, to a pretty favorable schedule. He won't have to really worry about too many back-to-backs, so I expect him, honestly, to probably be in rhythm towards the end of the month if he plays most of the month of December. So, and they're also on a 9-game win streak right now. They're first in opponents' field goal percentage at 42%. They're first in opponents' turnovers per game at 18 a game. OKC is just, they're rolling right now. I really got much more to say to you guys about them. Number 2, this team is 13-4, and it may surprise you guys that they're still number 2, but it's the Denver Nuggets. Denver right now, they're 2nd in offensive rating. They're 11th in defensive rating, and they're 3rd in net rating. They're 6-2 against teams above 500. They're 11-3 against the Western Conference. They're 3rd in opponents' three-point percentage at 32 a game. They're allowing the 5th fewest rebounds per game at 41. I felt good keeping Denver at number 2, even though they just lost. They lost to, who did they lose to? Sacramento. They just lost to Sacramento. But I think that was more of a byproduct of how much energy and tenacity and intensity was put into that Houston game, which we're going to talk about the Houston game later in this episode. But yeah, so they're staying number 2 for me. I still firmly feel how I feel about Denver. Number 3, this team is 15-2, and that is the Detroit Pistons. Detroit right now, they're 7th in offensive rating. They're 3rd in defensive rating, and they're 4th in net rating. They're on a 13-game win streak right now, and if tonight they play Boston, if they beat Boston, then that will be a new franchise record at 14. I think they're going to lose to Boston. I just think Boston's kind of just Boston's a quietly, they're a solid team. You know, like on any given night, Boston can really rev up on teams. So, and they're going into the Garden, and going into the Garden is not an easy task to do anyways. So I do think the streak's going to end tonight. I got Boston winning tonight's game. It's good to see Jaden Ivey back on the court. Going to be watching how he progressively ramps up throughout these next couple weeks. They got a solid This week for them is going to be a pretty solid test for them. They obviously play Boston tonight. Then they got the Magic, and then they got Miami. They got Miami on the second night of a back-to-back. I think they play Miami Saturday, and then Monday they got Atlanta. So pretty good test for Detroit coming up this week. Number 4, this team is 11-4, and that is the Houston Rockets. Houston right now, they're first in offensive rating. In offensive rating, they're first. They're fifth in defensive rating. They're second in net rating. Houston right now, they've been dealing with a couple injuries, but then also I know Katie's been out for personal reasons, but they got Utah twice coming up. So, I mean, take that for how you want to take that. They're second in ISO frequency per game at about 11% per game. They're 21st, though, in points per possession out of the ISO, and they're 9th in field goal percentage out of the ISO at 45%. They're 28th in free throw frequency out of the ISO as well at 11%. So, yeah, very heavy on the ISO. Seems like, I mean, it's working for them to some extent, right? They're first in offensive rating, but I think that's more of a byproduct of how crazily well they're shooting the 3-point ball right now. But Houston is doing their thing, and they actually have improved defensively, because I think last week their defensive rating was maybe 10th or 8th last week, so it has gradually came up. Houston's no joke. I don't care if they lost the game to Denver. That was one game. I think we're going to talk more about that game later. I'm not going to say much more to you guys about it. Number 5, this team is 13-4, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers. LA right now, they're 14th in offensive rating. They're 14th in defensive rating. They're 15th in net rating. They're 6-0 in clutch time games, which the clutch is defined as the last 5 minutes of the game, with the game being within 5 points, but they're 6-0 in that. So shout out to JJ and his staff, and of course the players for holding up that record thus far this season. They're 27th in drives per game at 40 a game, but they're first in field goal percentage out of the drive at 59%. They're 6th in the NBA in steals per game at 9 a game. Los Angeles right now, I know their net rating is very low, but I believe in this team, right? I believe in this team thus far. We'll see how this next month goes for them. Number 6, this team is 13-5, and that is the Toronto Raptors. Toronto, thus far, they're 6th in offensive rating. They're 7th in defensive rating, and they're 5th in net rating. They're 6th in the NBA in three-point percentage at 38%. They average the 4th fewest attempts per game at 32 a game. They're 4th in opponents' three-point percentage at 32%, and they're 18th in opponents' attempts at 37 attempts. And they're 6-3 against teams above 500. If you guys remember, if you watched any of my season preview episodes or even my Toronto Raptors season preview episodes, I told you Toronto was kind of one of my sleeper teams of the East this year. They haven't disappointed thus far this year, and if you haven't got a chance to watch Toronto, highly recommend watching them play, because they're a fun watch. And BI is hooping. Colin Murray-Boyles is doing very well for them as well. They're playing like a very well-rounded team, so I want to give a big shout-out to the Toronto Raptors. Number 7. This team is 12-6, and that is the Miami Heat. Miami right now, they're 12th in offensive rating. They're 4th in defensive rating, and they're 6th in net rating. So for me, they've outplayed my expectations for them thus far this year. I've said it on record to you guys on here. I felt that Miami was going to deal with a lot of injuries this year, because last year, for most of the year, Bam and Tyler Hero both played. I think one played 77 games and the other played like 78 games. So I thought this year they were going to deal with injuries mainly to those two guys. And they have dealt with injury with Tyler Hero, and I think Bam has missed maybe a few games. But for the most part, it's been next man up. You got to give a big shout out to, of course, Eric Spoelstra, but also Noah LaRoche for his offensive scheme, implementing his offensive scheme to this team. I mean, it's looked, like I said, I'm very excited to watch it in the playoffs. I already told you guys this a couple weeks ago. But yeah, so I gotta give credit to Miami thus far this year, because they've been able to persevere through the injuries they've dealt with, and offensively, they're playing a different brand of basketball, and the team has bought into it. So I want to give a big shout out to them. Khalil Ware is playing out of his mind. I mean, during their 5-game win streak, he's averaging 17 points, 16 rebounds, and a block and a steal a game, shooting 52.5% from the field. So Khalil Ware's doing his thing. They got a really good showdown against Detroit on Saturday, so I'll be tuning into that game. Number 8, this team is 10-6, and that is the New York Knicks. New York right now, they're 3rd in offensive rating. They're 17th in defensive rating, and they're 8th in net rating. So They need OG. They need OG so bad, in my opinion. With OG on the court, they're first in net rating at plus 17. And then without him, they're 25th in net rating at a -8. They got Toronto on Sunday. They got Boston next Tuesday. So we'll see how they look when they play those two teams. But yeah, New York, I kind of have to move them down slightly this week. I had to move them down slightly this week just because eye test wise, they're looking a little shaky. And they need OG very bad. I didn't realize they needed him that bad until he's been missing. So, but number 9, this team is 12-7, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland right now, they're 15th in offensive rating, they're 6th in defensive rating, and they're 11th in net rating. So I'm not giving up on Cleveland. Cleveland's dealt with a lot of injuries this year, in my opinion. Yeah, they slid last week. I had them at 6th. This week I got them at 9th because there's things that I've kind of seen that I'm just not okay with what they've done thus far. But I do have faith in this team still. I think they still can move up in my power rankings, no doubt. It's so early in the year. We're still very early in the year. They just got to get healthy, man, and string together some really good games. They got the Hawks and Boston this week. So they're going to have a chance to win some games coming up. I'm not really sure when Darius Garland is expected to come back again. I know he's out, but they just dealt with injuries. We haven't really had a chance to watch this team play 5 games being whole. So I really, really believe if they're healthy, I believe they're much better than even being 9th. But for right now, I'll put them at 9th. And hopefully they don't lose these games this upcoming week because they might fall out of the top 10 next week. Number 10, this team is 9-4. And that is the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio right now, they're 10th in offensive rating. They're 5th in defensive rating. They're 6th in net rating. They're missing arguably their best 2 players in Victor and Stephon Castle. I'm keeping them in my top 10. I trust this team. And plus, I want to give them about 2 weeks because I know Castle's projected, I think, only to miss 1 to 2 weeks, I believe. So I really want to see how they do when he gets back and see if even just adding him back will be able to keep them afloat until Victor gets back. So I'm going to keep them firmly at 10. Unless something catastrophic happens over this next week with this team, I would like to keep them at 10. Unless one of these other teams on my bubble really just pop to me, then I might move them out. But it's simply just because, no Victor and no Castle. But we'll see. For right now, I'm going to keep them at 10. I could make arguments for one of these bubble teams at 10, but I want to give San Antonio the benefit of the doubt. They play the Blazers tonight, so we'll see how they look in that game. And then my teams on the bubble, I have the Orlando Magic, I have the Boston Celtics, and I also have the Golden State Warriors. You guys let me know down in the comment section below who's in your top 10, and then who do you have on your bubble. The next segment that I want to talk to you guys about is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, in What's New, I'm giving you guys some type of NBA news or some type of NBA statistical history that was made, or it could just be me ranting. First thing I want to talk about, it's kind of a little bit of both. I guess it's going to be kind of me giving you guys some news and me ranting. So word has it, and it was kind of confirmed, is that the LA Dodgers executives are going to be coming over to the Lakers in advisory roles, ironically, just about the same week that the Bus Brothers were ousted, and they got rid of the Bus Brothers last week. So where my mind straight away went to was, we've been knowing that Jeannie and her brothers have had beef for years. We've been knowing about that. But then also, to me, what that signaled was that the guys that are coming over from the Dodgers, they're getting ready to revamp this organization as a whole. I'm talking all the way down to probably the team's trainers, maybe the team chefs, the scouting team. I think they're about to just revamp it and strip it down. And this also, to me, also signaled that this really may be it for LeBron in LA. And which, I mean, nothing wrong with it. He's done what he's done there. He's had a great career. I've been on the record to you guys, even since last offseason, 2024 offseason, I told you guys that I felt LeBron only had 2 years left. And then even this last offseason, I told you guys I felt like this was going to be his last year. I don't know now. I'm going to be real with you guys. I have no idea, because I thought he was going to announce his farewell tour. I also think this change in ownership and stuff, I think that really that's kind of made him and his team kind of have to reevaluate things for themselves. Because I don't know what they were told, but to me, it's just something is up with that. Something is up with that. And what I do know about the Dodgers owners is that they're not afraid to get off of good players or players that have done stuff for the franchise, because I've seen them do it with the Dodgers. And I read about them doing that to players of the Dodgers. So they're not going to be afraid to let go of LeBron. And it's been already documented multiple times, like everybody's focus is to Luka, and rightfully so. So I'm just really interested to see how LeBron navigates this time. Like, does he come out and announce, hey, this is going to be my last season? Does he say that at the All-Star weekend in LA, or does he just play out this year and go play for another team one more year next year and have a farewell tour? I'm very interested now. I'm invested in this now. At first, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I thought I had it solved out. I was like, yeah, All-Star Game's going to be in LA. He'll announce his farewell tour. He'll spend all season, saying his goodbyes, and then he'll go his last All-Star game. It'll be a home All-Star game, kind of, even though it's going to be in Inglewood. And then, yeah, that was going to be that. Now, I don't know. I genuinely don't know, but I do know for sure there's a no doubt disconnect from LeBron and this new ownership group, and this new ownership group is coming in and they're shaking stuff up. I'm very interested too, though, to see what kind of personnel they decide to bring on too. I personally can't, like off the top of my mind, because I didn't do any research on this, I don't know how many other MLB owners have crossed over into the NBA and even have had executives come over into the NBA into advisory role. Like I don't know how many teams have done this before. I know the Blazers' new owner, he's coming from hockey, and I think he owns a couple other things. I forgot what else it is. Yeah, I'm interested. I'm very interested to see how this Laker organization looks. And next year, I know they have a lot of cap space too. So it's going to be interesting. It is going to be very interesting. I know for sure, no doubt, we know who's staying. We know Luka and JJ are going to be there. We know that. And I'm interested to see what they do with Rob Pelinka too. Very, very interested to see what happens there. So kind of just wanted to bring that up to you guys a little bit. Another thing I want to talk about is the NBA injuries, man. There's been so many injuries, man. And it made me kind of reflect and wonder, why? Why is this? And I've come up with two different theses, in my opinion. I think a big thing is the style of play that's being played now. I think NBA players now have to cover a lot more of the space, which the more space you got to cover, the more work you got to put to cover the space, the more, physical wear it's going to have on your body. Also, the athletes are better now, so getting to your spots, the pace of the game is a lot more faster now. Obviously, it's stretching all the way beyond the three-point line. So, again, just more ground you got to cover. But I also think it could be due to also the improper ramp-up that's going on with these teams during training camp. From my understanding is that these teams are not going as hard as they once did before. So I think that also could be playing a part into the injuries happening, your body not being, properly taken care of and going through the proper steps needed to be ready to withstand the wear and tear of the NBA season. I think that also could be playing a big part into these injuries. But yeah, I just wanted to share my thought with you guys on that, because it is robbing us. It's truly robbing us of some great, great basketball. It's to the point where almost every day I have to look at the injury report, and that, to me, that's sad. I shouldn't have to do that so constantly. But I feel like I have to do that a lot more now than before. And it kind of is just robbing us. I just feel like it's just robbing us of some great basketball games and even some great conversations that we should be having, instead of looking at the report like, oh, he's out because of injury management, or, oh, he's out because of a hamstring or a calf. It's always a hamstring or a calf or a groin. That's what I've noticed. It's always those injuries. But yeah, it just sucks. It really, really sucks. It bothers me. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about, and I just want to give some love. I want to give you guys something positive. I want to give some love to some players that have been kind of stars in their role thus far this year. I just wrote down a couple players. I just want to give some love to them. I'm not going to talk too extensively about them because the segment's kind of running a little long already. So I just want to give some love to Sandro of the Toronto Raptors. I can't pronounce his last name. I also want to give some love to Colin Gillespie of the Phoenix Suns. I want to give some love to Ryan Rollins of the Milwaukee Bucks. I want to give some love to Danis Jenkins of the Detroit Pistons. I want to give some love to Jaime Jaquez of the Miami Heat. I want to give some love to Ayo Dosunmu of the Chicago Bulls. I want to give some love to Age Mitchell of the Oklahoma City Thunder. I want to give some love to Onyeka Okongwu of the Atlanta Hawks. I want to give some love to Quentin Grimes of the Philadelphia 76ers. He's kind of picked up where he's kind of left off. Quentin Grimes kind of has. He's trying to get paid. Y'all bullshit. He's trying to get his cheese. I respect that. And then last part I want to give some love to, and unfortunately he's hurt right now, is Blake Wesley of the Portland Trailblazers. Blake Wesley's played coming off the bench. He gave a lot of really good energy, played some really great defense coming off the bench and providing a lot of energy for them. He's injured right now. I think I want to tell you guys, I don't want to say broke his ankle. I think he broke his ankle or wrist or something. But he's out. He's out for a couple months. But yeah, I just want to give love to some of those players, you guys. There's other role players that I think have played very well, but I just wanted to show love to those guys right now this week. Other guys, as the season goes on, we'll talk about them as well. But yeah, you guys let me know down in the comment section below what news or what thing you want to rant about. What did you guys come across this week? You guys let me know down in the comment section below. My next segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm talking about some type of NBA or college game. And within that, I'm talking about a game I either enjoyed watching or it could be a game of some type of like significance, okay? So this week, we're going to talk about an NBA game and none other than the Denver Nuggets versus the Houston Rockets. Denver won this game 112-109. Unfortunately, in the first quarter, Aaron Gordon left the game with a leg injury. But Denver was dominant on both sides of the ball. And to me, Houston really had nothing going in the first quarter. They were frozen from three, and they kind of looked a little stuck, in my opinion. But second quarter came around, and truly it was the Reed Shepherd show. I mean, Reed he got blazing hot and really fueled this team to really get back into the game. And he brought their offense to life, in my opinion. In the first half, outside of Reed Shepherd, this team shot, I believe, 2 for 11 from three in the first half. And crazy enough, Denver controlled the offensive glass in the first half. It was 10-7 on offensive rebounding, and the total rebounding, I think it was 27-18, I believe, if I remember correctly. But like what I really took from this game is that Denver, and I told you guys this a couple weeks ago, Denver defensively, to me, this is the best defensive team Denver has had in the Nikola Jokic era. I really believe that. And that's credit truly to David Adelman because personnel-wise, the personnel is not that much different, in my opinion. You can argue that defensively, some of their personnel was actually weaker, like Jonas Valanciunas, Tim Hardaway, not good defenders. Obviously, Peyton Watson's solid. I do think the Spencer Jones kid, I think he might be somebody that we may see, more regularly just in spotting minutes for them. I really like his size and his physique that he brings. A very solid frame. He's 6'7", and I think he has 3-and-D potential on him. So that was somebody that stood out to me during the game was him. Even though he got in a lot of fouls, but still somebody I think just who they could use as a tool. But also another thing that really stood out to me was that I think when it comes to Houston, I think Houston is still trying to figure out who they are, in my opinion. Kevin Durant only had 2 shots in the clutch, and there were 2 threes. And you brought Kevin Durant to Houston for in the clutch, right? Like that's what you really brought KD there for. So that was something that really kind of just strikingly kind of stood out to me, in my opinion. And their offense, and I've said this to you guys before, their offense is very hard to watch when their threes are not falling or if they're not getting offensive rebounds. So to me, I'm not going to say it's concerning, but it's for sure something that I am going to highlight to you guys because I really want to see how this, because there's going to come a time, especially in the playoffs, where teams are going to schematically scheme you out of being able to get all those offensive rebounds, and they may turn off the faucet on your three-point shooting as well. So you guys, I'm just interested to see more diverse in dimensions to Houston's offense is what I'll mainly be looking for the next couple months during the season. But yeah, so the biggest thing I took from this game really was that Denver has that championship DNA down the stretch. It just showed. And Houston offensively is still learning, trying to figure out who they are. And that's totally fine. When you add somebody like Kevin Durant, Yes, KD seamlessly fits into offenses, but it does take time to become acclimated with these players that you're playing with compared to Denver, who's had the same core players for years, So I didn't take too much stock into the game. The main things were, like I said, Denver's defense is for real. Their offense is what it is. Of course, it's lights out. But then Houston, I think offensively, is still trying to figure out what their identity is and what that's going to look like down the stretches of games. All right. You guys let me know down in the comment section below what game this week did you guys really enjoy, and what games are you guys looking forward to this week. I want to give you guys the games this week that I'm going to be paying attention to. One is Friday. We got Cavs versus the Hawks. Another one on Friday, we got the Magic versus the Pistons. Another one on Friday, AD returns to LA. He plays the Lakers. Saturday, we get the Timberwolves versus Boston. Sunday, we get Raptors versus Knicks. Monday, we get Hawks versus Pistons. And then Tuesday, we get OKC versus the Warriors. Okay, you guys let me know down in the comment section below what games you guys looking forward to this week, and what was your game of the week this last week, if that be in the NBA or in college. Okay, my last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies, high school, college, or international basketball. We've been talking about college basketball, so I'm going to actually spin this, and we've talked about high school as well. I kind of just want to spend some time and check in on the NBA rookies. We're going to talk about some of the main ones this week, and then next week we'll check in on some of the not so mainstream named ones, okay? So I first want to give some love, and I want to talk about my boy Trey Johnson. Thus far, in my opinion, Washington is literally just trying to perform a tank job. There's no reason in my mind that Trey Johnson, he should be starting. But two, also the amount of minutes that he's playing is just not, it ain't right. It ain't right. I think they know what they got in Trey Johnson. I think they've seen enough from him this year. And I think that's also why he's not playing that many minutes. And I also think Washington wants to get another top 5, top 4 lottery pick to add more scoring to this team, which I'm not mad at it, but I just don't like how they doing Trey Johnson. Trey Johnson thus far, his shooting splits, he's shooting 45.5% from the field, 39.5% from three, and 81% from the free throw line. Trey Johnson's a bucket. He's truly a bucket getter, and he would be much higher on the Rookie of the Year race and on the scoring totals for the rookies on points per game if he was getting more minutes and actually playing the amount he should be playing. I think they're doing it on purpose, though, in my opinion. But if you're a Washington Wizards fan, let me know down in the comment section below if I'm missing something, if he's, in somebody's doghouse or what's going on with him. But I think they're purposely playing him low minutes, just like what they're kind of doing to Bryce Sensabaugh over in Utah. I think also same thing. I think they don't want him playing because they're trying to lose games, and that's just my opinion. And speaking of Utah, let's talk about Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey thus far for the month of November has looked so much more comfortable. Thus far, his shooting splits for November, he's shooting 50% from the field, 37% from three, 80% from the free throw line. And I told you guys during my pre-draft episode, because we talked about his free throw percentage. Free throw percentage in college was really low. I think it was like mid to high 60s. And I was telling people, I was like, he's a much better free throw shooter than that. And I gave my explanation why I think he was shooting so bad in college. But it's looking good in the NBA so far. He's shooting 80% in the month of November. And we'll talk. So I want to give some love to Ace Bailey because he's for sure looking a lot more comfortable in the month of November. Another player, which was his teammate back at Rutgers, is Dylan Harper. To me, Dylan Harper has looked great when he's been available. Unfortunately, he's sidelined with an injury, but he's looking great. I'm very interested to see, and I said this during my San Antonio season preview, I'm interested to see how they navigate having all these guards. Because to me, something's got to give with that at some point. So I'm just interested to see what they do there with that. So shout out. Dylan Harper's played well when he's been available. Another player I want to talk about is none other than VJ Edgecombs. VJ came out of the gates blazing. I think he's cooled down as of late. But I think that's more so attributed to him transitioning to the NBA. Like the grind of the NBA, the constant travel, the every other day basically playing a game. A little bit different than college. College, you usually only have about 2 games a week, sometimes only 1 game a week. So I think he's hit this dry spell because I think he's kind of hitting that like early to middle of the season, not even middle of the season, but he's hitting, I think, that slump thus far. Right now, because I think his legs are probably getting tired, and I think eventually he will get out of this slump. I'm not too worried about him, and for sure long term I'm not worried about him, but I think right now he's kind of gotten in the slump because I think the weight of the NBA season is kind of already weighed on him a little bit. I know it's early, but still they've played about close to 20 games now, And in college, you only play, I think, 30. College, you only play, I think, like 35 all year, maybe 40. If you count the NCAA tournament, I think maybe 40 games. But yeah, I just think the weight of the NBA, the season, the grind, every other game or the 2 nights of back-to-back game, I think it's just getting to him a little bit. But I think he'll be okay. I think he'll have a warm stretch again this year. Another play I want to talk about with you guys is Con Knipple. I mean, I've been raving about Con to you guys from even the beginning of his freshman year at Duke. I did my season preview episode for college basketball last year, and I told you guys I felt that potentially he could be the second leading scorer on Duke or the first leading scorer on Duke. I've been high on Con, so I'm not surprised what he's doing, to be honest. I am surprised that he's shooting with such efficiency so early, because I told you guys during my Charlotte Hornets preview that I felt like he might start slow in the NBA, because in college he started really slow. His shooting numbers, and he had such a bad shooting slump to start his college year last year, and I thought that was going to happen in the NBA. That has not happened. He's hit the ground running. Con is shooting. He's averaging 19 points a game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, one steal. He's shooting 49% from the field on 14 attempts. He's shooting 44% from 3 on 8.5 attempts. And Con is just he's doing his thing. He's shooting lights out. I ain't got much else to say about him. Like I said, I've talked about him a lot to you guys. So I'm just happy, and I'm a Duke fan, so even more happy about that. Let's talk about his teammate, Cooper Flagg. Cooper's averaging 16 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 45% from the field, 14 attempts, 26% from 3 on 4 attempts, shooting 79% from the free throw line on 3 attempts. Some people are down on Cooper. I personally think Cooper Flagg is still going to be a all-star / all-NBA level player. I'm not worried about Cooper at all. For somebody of his age to be shooting 45%, because mind you, Cooper's 18. He's only 18 years old. He's really supposed to be in the 2026 draft. He just reclassified so he could come out earlier. And also, I want to kill this whole notion, because I've seen it a lot. Where would Cooper Flagg go in the 2026 draft? I'll tell you guys this. Cooper Flagg in the 2026 draft, I still think he would still go number 1. I just think that conversation of him being number 1 would be a lot closer. Similar to like the Paulo, Chet, and Jabari Smith draft. You remember, like, nobody knew who the first pick was going to be until like literally like a few minutes later we seen the odds change for Paulo. Like, that's how I think it would have been if Cooper came out in 2026 draft. But people were sleeping on Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg he's going to be an all-star, and I think he is going to be an all-NBA level player. For a player this young to be shooting, I'm not worried about his 3-point shooting. Most rookies come in, they don't shoot good from 3. The most promising thing is his field goal percentage at 45%. That's really, really good for somebody that's 18 with the offensive weight that he has. 45% is really, really good. And then his free throw percentage, I mean, even at Duke, he shot really solid from the free throw line. He's shooting 79% now in the NBA. And since they stopped having him bring up the ball so much and try to force him to be a point guard, because he's not a point guard. He's really not. So I hated how they kept trying to force him to run point guard. Like chill out, like let the kid get accustomed to the NBA lifestyle. Let him get accustomed to the NBA speed. But yeah, I'm not worried about Cooper Flagg at all. I just want to let you guys know that like he will be no doubt perfectly fine. But people do got to put some respect on his name, trying to say they don't. I've seen some people say he wouldn't even go top 5 in the 2026 draft. Like, that is not true at all. That is not true, and that made me mad, because to me that just says people don't know basketball, in my opinion. Another player I want to talk about is Jeremiah Fears. Jeremiah Fears is averaging 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.5 steals, 2 turnovers, shooting 46% from the field on 13 attempts, 37% from 3 on 3 attempts, 78% from the free throw line on 3 attempts. I've talked about Jeremiah Fears. Again, another player I'll talk to you guys last college basketball season. Before the year started, I talked about Jeremiah Fears. And before he really went viral and took off. I love Jeremiah Fears, man. I love Jeremiah Fears. I think he's somebody I feel like people don't really talk about him much, but I love his game. I loved his game at Oklahoma. Very shifty dude. And I seen somebody try to compare him to Dennis Schroeder. He's better than Dennis Schroeder. I ain't going to let y'all disrespect Jeremiah Fears like that. Another player that I want to talk about, and the last player I want to talk about is one of my draft sleepers, and that's Cedric Coward. Cedric Coward thus far is averaging 14.6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, shooting 46% from the field on 10 attempts, 38% from 3. He's shooting 87.5% from the free throw line on 3 attempts. Cedric has not disappointed me at all. I mean, if you want to hear me, I'm not going to talk a lot about him right now because the episode's kind of long. But long story short, he was one of my draft sleepers. And yeah, he has not disappointed at all. My other 2 draft sleepers, one was Thomas Soyber. He's out for the year. So we really can't really talk much about him until next year. But I still feel really good about him. And then the other one is Carter Bryant. I still feel really good about Carter Bryant, too, even though he hasn't really gotten much playing time in San Antonio. I think that's another player we're kind of just going to have to wait for. But, yeah, that's the end of my episode. I hope you guys have a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you guys next week. And thank you for checking out the PJ Hoop Podcast.